This is Michael Woodward, and this is episode 88 of the Jumblethink podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink podcast, a podcast focused on telling the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers. Along the way, we give you some tips and ideas how you can chase your own big idea and dreams and create the world you want to live in. Our guest for today's episode is Tom Mulliez. More about Tom in a moment. Our guest on our very special Friday episode is Jeff McManus. He is the Director of Landscape Services at the University of Mississippi and a well-known and sought-after speaker. He has a theory called the growth theory of management, which stands for greatness, resilience, opportunity, and wisdom. He manages a multi-million-dollar landscaping budget, but is really well known for the leadership that he's created on the campus. His work has been featured in places like the Princeton Review and Newsweek. He created a landscaping university, which is a training program based on his grow theory. He has a new book out called Growing Weeders into Leaders. It's a super fun episode. Make sure to check that out this Friday. We are so excited at Jumblethink to be launching our first ever virtual idea camps coming up in early 2018. We want to make sure you're part of that. So swing on over to jumblethink.com/ideacamp. If you sign up for information today, you'll get in to the first virtual idea camp for free. And you'll also get free access into our new Facebook group. Swing on over to jumblethink.com/ideacamp. Again, that's www.jumblethink.com/ideacamp. Now let's join the conversation with today's guest, Tom Mulliez. Welcome to the Jumblethink podcast. My name is Michael Woodward. I'm your host. Super excited to have you along with our guest today, Tom Mulliez. Tom is the visionary and entrepreneur behind iTREKKERS, which provides a booking service online for guided outdoor activities. I love that Tom and his team is helping people find adventure, find a love for getting outside and getting engaged in being active again. It's a super fun episode, and Tom is helping countless individuals, groups, and businesses reconnect with their love and passion for being active and getting outside. So let's jump into the conversation we had with Tom Mulliez. My guest today is Tom Mulliez. Is that right? Mulliez?
Mulliez.
Mulliez.
Don't worry. Everybody gets it wrong.
All right. Well, it's so good to have you on the podcast. Thanks for taking time out to share your story.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really pumped about this today.
I'm loving your site, what you've created, iTREKKERS.com. And, of course, we'll have the links in the episode notes and everything like that, so they're easy to find. Tell us a little bit about iTREKKERS and what it is and what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So iTREKKERS.com was a platform that I created. The original purpose was to connect people who don't get outdoors with independent, in-house, or third-party vetted guides to provide the best possible outdoor experiences around fishing trips, camping trips, hiking trips, and paddle adventures, so kayaking and paddleboarding. And we started here in Tampa Bay, and now we serve the entirety of the state of Florida. So pretty much any beach vacation location you'd be going to, you'd be able to go on one of the iTREKKERS paddle, or one of our adventures.
That's really, really cool. Now, obviously, this stems from a place of the outdoors. This stems from a place of getting out there and doing things and being adventurous. Where did your passion for the outdoors, when did your passion for a lifestyle that's outside the four walls really begin?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my first memory that I have is that of a camping trip that my dad took me on when I was 5. I was on the riverbank, actually on an island in the middle of the riverbank, and my memory is of camping with my father, sitting by a fire with the water kind of surrounding us, and truly feeling at peace and happy while I was connecting with nature and connecting with him. And And that's like honestly my first vivid memory that I have of my life is of being outdoors with my father on this trip. And it's kind of funny, like it's such a vivid memory because part of it on the drive home, I've got this song that just gets stuck in like a loop on this memory. It's like, I heard it through the grapevine, yada, da, da.
Yeah.
And so like, it just kind of, that kind of bluesy, jazzy feel, it kind of encapsulates how I felt on this trip. So my passion for the outdoors kind of comes from that moment. And, my happy place whenever I need to get away or do something for me is going camping, hiking multiple miles, and camping along a river in the mountains. And that for me kind of is where I go when I need to recenter myself.
It's really cool. And so this journey started when you were very young, and it's really the first vivid memory you have. And ultimately, it sounds like it was a memory that was just very, very deep in your bones. It's just been the foundation for where you've grown since then. So often when we have ideas or when we have dreams or when we have passions, somewhere along the line we lose the passion and the love for it. How were you able to keep your passion, the fire going for being an outdoorsman, for being a person who enjoys getting out there and doing things and going on adventure?
I'm really lucky in the sense that my passion fits very well with my mission and vision for my company. My iTREKKERS exists because we want to open up the accessibility to the outdoors to those who don't get outdoors. And this is a passion that never really goes away for me because it's so ingrained in who I am. Like the founder of Burton Snowboard.
Yeah.
He snowboards 100 days a year.
Wow.
Still today. And he refuses to not do that because the second that he does not participate in his passion, that's when you let that kind of creep in and it can die. And so for me, this weekend I was camping with my family. I've got an 8-year-old daughter, Olivia, a 6-year-old. It was her birthday. She's 6 now, Emily,
wow.
And then a 2-year-old Theo. And we were camping for Emily's birthday. And then we participated in a fishing tournament with their school. That iTREKKERS put on because we do group stuff as well for those who are coming down. That was our weekend. And other times we're just outdoors in the back in the pool, or we're at a park, or so I make getting outdoors a part of both my personal life as well as my professional life. I'll go do these events that my team puts on, and I'll go participate in these activities because it's important for me to continue to do that. And the second that I lose sight of that is the moment that it can no longer become fun. And if it's no longer fun, it dies.
Yeah, I love the fact that so often we find passions and, we hoard those experiences for ourselves. I think of so many people who are like, oh, it's family time. Oh, it's business time. But you're able to create a business. You're able to create a foundation in which your family is integrated into that lifestyle. And it goes beyond just doing business, but you're actually living the lifestyle that you're selling through iTREKKERS. It's the reality for you and for your family, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if it wasn't, then I'd be a hypocrite.
Yeah, it's very good.
iTREKKERS' mission is to open up the outdoors to those who want to do something but don't know how.
Yeah.
We're doing that by making the outdoors accessible, both financially as well as physically, to people who need to get outside. Society today is moving so far away from their connection with nature that humankind, like our human self, is rebelling through obesity, through gadgetry, and kids having their fingers move when they're not on their phones. And, I view it as my mission to kind of reconnect this lost generation and their parents.
That's really cool. You founded iTREKKERS in 2014. What were you doing before you started this?
Before that, I was at Capital One. So I was in Richmond, Virginia, leading a team of analysts, and we were in charge of increasing the customer experience scores across all the contact centers. So that's phone and chat and email or whatever. And I actually moved to Tampa in order to climb the ladder to both implement all the programs that we created in my old role and to get ops experience. So I came down here to run part of our high value servicing call center. And my journey goes like this. We bought HSBC Capital or US Card, and we're $80 million over budget on the purchase. And they wanted me to go back to Richmond or I wouldn't have a job in Tampa.
Wow.
And I'm like, you guys just moved me down here a year ago today, literally a year ago to the day.
Wow.
And you're telling me either I go back or I no longer have a job. And I'm like, I just moved twice in Tampa already.
Wow.
I'm not going to go back. It's just too much. So my wife and I made that decision together, and I was supposed to start looking for a job, and I was, but I had this idea that I'd had for a long time that kept creeping in. And so then I was looking for a job and working on my business plan. And then I was just working on my business plan. And that's how my iTREKKER journey started. And to be honest, Capital One did right by me. They gave me a great severance. And on top of that, they gave me some BS job 5 hours a week.
Wow.
For another 6 months. So it gave me a lot of time to kind of focus and do what I wanted to do and needed to do.
That's really cool. And so often we get to these splits in the road where we have a choice, and it's easy to take the safe known category. You could go back to what you already known. You could have gone back to the status quo, but you chose to say, I'm going to go the less traveled road, the less traveled path, and create a new adventure. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's scary. It's fearful. You name it. It's kind of that jumble of emotions that all entrepreneurs face. I should say face if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
You're being realistic about what's up ahead. But, I was ready for it. Throughout my life, I've had these ideas that I didn't pursue that then became businesses. Sometime later. And I always regretted not taking the plunge, and I realized I just was too afraid. And for once I put aside my fear, and, I had a safety net, which unlike a lot of people, I had a safety net, about a year's worth of salary, and some savings. So, why not? And I took the plunge and I went for it.
That's really cool. You started iTREKKERS in 2014, and now it's growing into a business that I can imagine is beyond what you originally thought it would be. Tell us a little bit about who your audience is. You've got individual groups, businesses. How do you help each of those kind of little pockets, those spaces of people, and what do you provide for them that a traditional, I'm going to search for a guided trip. How do you help alleviate some of the stresses and problems of that?
That's a really interesting question because we figured out that we weren't actually achieving what we had set out to do. And we've made a gigantic pivot in the last 7 weeks.
Okay.
Specifically for that reason. So let me just kind of lay it out. Our customer has one thing in common, be it groups, individuals. They want to get outdoors more. They know they need to get outdoors more. They just don't know how to execute that themselves. And they're fearful about something stopping them from doing it. They don't have the skill set, or they don't have the gear, or they just, it just seems too daunting of a task. In America, there are 115 million Americans who view themselves as outdoorsy, yet don't get outside. Offering up $100 billion opportunity that's out there.
Wow.
When the actual guided marketplace is only $2.5 billion for fishing, hunting, and animal watching. So that's a huge contrast, right? So in the beginning, we were like, okay, we know through our research that 9 out of 10 people who search online for an outdoor adventure, guided adventure, don't book. And they don't book because they're afraid and they don't know what value they're going to get. Those are two key assumptions we made from talking to people. And so iTREKKERS will become this brand, this trusted brand that would bridge that gap. We have 100% money back guarantee. We vet our guides. We only let the best on the platform, based on a specific skill set and personality traits and gear that they have. And we're going to create this marketplace that's going to offer these guided trips. Yes, these guided trips are somewhat expensive, but there's definitely a market out there for it. And so we did that. And our cost of acquisition was astronomical, and we've been fighting that for 2 years and working hard to get it down, but we couldn't get it down far enough.
Okay.
So back in March, I went to see one of my mentors, and I said, who I knew would give me a straight answer.
Yeah.
I said, something's wrong in my business. Our cost of acquisition continues to stay too high. Yes, we can tweak it and continue to, take bites out of the process and make our UI and UX better and make the purchasing experience better and implement all these programs that cost money to do. But I'm afraid we wouldn't get there in time for us to have to raise more cash.
Okay.
And he sat me down, and it was a simple equation. Tom, cost of acquisition has to be equal or less than 1/3 of what's called ACV, average customer value.
Okay.
And that's the amount of money you make per customer in a year. And he's like, screw lifetime value. That doesn't exist in a startup.
Yeah.
Right. Because you may not be alive in 3 months.
Right.
So it's all about making sure that your cost of acquisition is less than or equal to 1/3 of the amount of money you make per customer in a given year. And our equation was way off. Instead of being 1/3, we were 3x.
Wow.
And to get to that 1/3, it's either you bring your cost of acquisition down tremendously, or you increase the amount of money you make per customer. And the best part is you do both at the same time.
Yeah.
And so we said, okay, we need to fix this. And so we worked really hard for 6 months to fix that. And it vastly improved, but it wasn't enough still. We realized that our independent guides in other geographic locations were stealing our customers. Our rebook rate was tiny compared to our own internal guides and our own internal equipment. We realized that they weren't servicing the customer the way that we would like them to service and the way that we did. And there was no way for us to mandate or force them to do that. And so we made a huge pivot. We said, okay, we've basically become this third-party booking service.
Yeah.
And that's not at all what our mission is. Our mission is to educate and get people outdoors. And we're not doing it. And people aren't buying our trips the way that we thought they would, where we thought if 10 people a month bought our trips in a geographic location, we could add boats, we could add tents, we could add staff, we could add all this kind of stuff to bring it all in-house internally, which was always the plan. We just weren't going to get there.
Yeah.
And so now we've pivoted. We've taken all the money we were spending on pay-per-click ads and Facebook ads and all that stuff, and we've invested it in people. And we're focused on doing like little class events. And the reason why we're doing it is we found out that the biggest reason why people still were not booking an outdoor adventure wasn't because they were worried about the adventure itself. It's because they had an innate emotional blocker.
Wow.
And so let me give you an example. I'll give you two. Mom wants to book a fishing trip for her son for his 9th birthday.
Yeah.
So it's her husband, and her 2 kids, and they're going to go out fishing because he wants to do that.
Yeah.
Well, the cheapest, most basic fishing trip you can get is a 4-hour inshore fishing trip.
Yeah.
And that cost for a family of 5 is about $500.
Okay.
She has the money, she has the motivation, and she doesn't book the trip. Why?
No idea.
Because she doesn't know where she can use the bathroom.
Okay.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
There's some random weird dude who is going to be staring at me while I crouch over a bucket or the side of the boat to pee.
Yeah.
That makes her uncomfortable. She does not buy the trip.
Yeah.
Dad is with his 2 kids, 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, wants to go camping, doesn't have gear, wants to recreate those memories he had hit with his father.
Yeah.
But he hasn't gone camping in a long time, so he's not quite sure what to do. And he doesn't want to screw it up, because if you screw it up, you'll never go again.
Right.
Through iTREKKERS provides the gear, we have a guide there. We everything is set up for you. All you need to bring is what you want to eat, drink, and a sleeping bag. And not only that, not only is everything provided for you, we run you through how to do it. We teach you how to start a fire. And then the guide is out in the woods somewhere close by in case you need them. And when you leave, we take it all down for you. You have no cleanup, no nothing. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Dad doesn't buy. Why? Because even with all those other factors, all that hassle taken away, what is not stopping him from buying. What's stopping him from buying is the fact that his 5-year-old might lose it in the woods. It might be the worst possible experience because he's never slept anywhere else than a bed or a pack and play.
Right.
So all of these emotional blockers that exist are what we are trying to now overcome. And the way that we're overcoming these, or trying to, I should say, is by we've created kind of this outdoor university.
Okay.
Where we're teaching little classes, 101, 102 level, 201, 301. You get the picture.
Yeah.
Like introduction to fishing, how to hold a rod, how to cast, how to bait a hook, $10, half-hour lesson.
Yeah.
Introduction to paddleboard, how to stand up. People weren't going paddleboarding because they were afraid to look like idiots when it's a tour, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stand up. Like, when am I going to stay on the shore while everyone goes for 2 hours? Like, and so what we've realized is we need to slowly get people into the outdoors by showing them firsthand that it's going to be okay. So we're holding people's hands through the process, and we're doing it at an incredibly low cost, basically like massive loss for us. But basically, we took all our marketing dollars and said, we're going to invest it in people, and we're going to invest in this curriculum to get people to slowly climb this skill ladder and then to get outdoors.
That's really cool.
And eventually they'll either bring lots of friends to our skilled lessons, which we need to figure out a word of mouth program, or they'll feel comfortable enough to take our bigger adventure. Because when mom now books a 201 class for fishing, it's an introduction to fishing on a boat, and it's for 2 hours. She knows she can hold it that long.
Yeah.
And so now she can actually talk to the captain and figure out, oh, wow, this guy's not a creepy guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and B, he's also got this kind of contraption where I can hide behind it and I can feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Or, oh, there's also docks right there where we can just quickly run there and I can use the public restroom.
Yeah.
We're never far.
Yeah.
And dad, when he's camping with his kids, he can go out with a big group of other families where they're all first timers and it's okay. We're just going to have a s'more party.
Yeah.
You don't want to sleep there that night. You're not feeling comfortable. Just go home.
Yeah.
Don't worry. It's just $20 a family to spend an evening under the stars. So and by the way, it's only 20 minutes away from where I live.
Yeah.
So all of these things that we're doing is to kind of bridge this gap and remove the emotional blockers that are stopping people from getting outdoors in today's day and age.
Well, it's almost like similar to the world of food, where a lot of people go to these experimental restaurants where they're like, what if I don't like the food or something like that? And they do a tasting menu where it's like you're getting a little snapshot and you're going to find something that you like throughout the journey, and that's going to draw you back into the full meal. And kind of taking that principle of saying, people don't know what they don't know, but if they have the small experience, you can overcome the obstacles that you're talking about. You can overcome the fears and give them a roadmap that makes the entry a lot easier and brings them into a place of experience that then pacifies the fears and gives them excitement for the next step.
Very eloquently said. Yes, exactly.
Now, you, in that realm, are really in the world of education. You're not just giving experiences, but you're also teaching, and you're helping people have the successes that they want from the experiences they're trying to gain. Absolutely.
It's the cornerstone of what we do now. We are educators. Our guides are now called instructors.
Right.
We are outdoor educators that are going to open the doors to the outdoors to you.
Well, that leads me to a question I think is really significant. We've really lost something in our culture in the world of education. How can we bridge the gap for our kids of a technology-driven society, a in the classroom learning about it but not experiencing it? How can we change that trend and move into a world where it's more about experiences, it's more about being engaged in the community or the experience that you're in? How can we start pivoting our kids so that they're not living the same issues that we're having, whether it's obesity, whether it's health issues, whether it's boredom, whether it's whatever that is for that individual, how can we start shifting the trend so our kids don't have to live that life? And they can break this trend of behind a screen, moving our fingers, typing on a keyboard, watching a TV. How can we change that trend?
It's a great question. I obviously don't have all the answers, but something for me is, if we go back to human nature, how did we learn in the very beginning? It was always hands-on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we learned by doing. We learned through the process. We learned by failure. And in today's day and age, we tell people like it's okay. We're all winners. You're not going to fail. I don't think we're really teaching people much in that perspective.
Right.
Participating is not success. Learning is success, and you learn through failure and get up and do it again. But at the same time, some things lend themselves better to others for hands-on learning, and I feel like there are some curriculums in some schools that are doing a much better job. Like my daughter's homework this weekend was like grab your spare change jar and lay it on the floor and organize them so you can go and make change.
Okay.
Like that's hands-on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but like when you get to university or even high school and, we've, shop class is gone and drama is gone and all those things are gone, because we don't have money to pay for it apparently. But what if we did something different? What if we allowed them to go out into the real world and actually participate? And, your physics class isn't in the classroom. It's actually in a laboratory with actual scientists.
Yeah.
Or your shop class is at an actual auto body dealer. Hey, let's show you what we're doing. It's just we're always going to need our technology. That's helping us get smarter. And I truly believe that. But what I believe is that the balance is gone. We need to balance screen time with hands-on time. And for us, hands-on time for the outdoors is like, let's sit down and teach you some skills.
Yeah.
These are actual skills you need: how to start a fire, how to purify water, how to, make your own fishing rod eventually. Because we used to be in the fields and learn hands-on, and then we went to this sedentary society. I mean, just think about it. 150 years ago, we were an outdoor society.
Yeah, yeah.
Cooked outdoors over fire pits. We, did laundry outdoors. We used the bathroom outdoors. Everything that we did was outdoors. Yeah. And then now we're an indoor society where everything we do is indoors. And when you and I were growing up, we could go out and ride our bikes around the neighborhood, and now kids can't even do that anymore.
Right.
They're secluded to the backyard, this fenced kind of prison, and that's where they're safe because everyone knows of the one kid a day who gets nabbed in some random place across the world, and it's a big deal. Yeah. And of course it's a big deal, but by making that such a big deal, we've scared this generation of parents, because at the end of the day, it's not the kid's fault. Right. It's you and I. Right. It's our generation that is living in this shift in technology that doesn't really have a grasp on the impacts that our kids and tech is going to have on them. And we're the ones, doing this. And the people who are creating school curriculums, they're from a generation even further back. Right. So they have no clue. They have no firsthand knowledge themselves. Yeah. They want to teach kids the same way that they were taught. That just doesn't work in an ever evolving world. So to sum it up, I think we need to balance screen time with hands-on time, and we need to make specific hands-on activities anywhere that we can.
I want to pivot here a little bit and talk a little bit about how you took iTREKKERS from an idea. You built out a platform that's really nice for people to use to be able to find what they're looking for. How are you using technology to make things easier? And I guess the broader picture, the broader question here is, how did you transition your business idea from an idea into systems and concepts and actionable items that people can engage with, so that your business became more than just an idea, it became a reality?
Great questions. I'm going to answer the second one first.
Okay.
So one of the things that I did that I've talked to a lot of people that they did not do and that I would highly recommend is I took my business plan. I got a consultant and I worked with the consultants, and that was helpful to work with somebody on the idea. But what I realized is what was helpful was not working with someone. It was just talking about it.
Yeah.
And having someone question your assumptions and question everything.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I took that idea and with my dad's advice, he said, go talk to 3 people about your idea and show them your idea and let them destroy it.
Okay.
And then at the end of that conversation, ask them for 3 names and go talk to those 3 people.
Yeah.
So that's 9 people, and keep doing that until you hit 100 or 150. And so I must have talked to like 100 people about my idea. And every time I talked about it, it got refined. And every time they destroyed it, I rebuilt it.
Yeah.
And every time, because I was determined to get this off the ground. And in doing so, I gave myself the best chance of success. iTREKKERS' early failures were not due to a keen misunderstanding of the business model or the business plan. It was due to me not being able to pick the right people to execute on the skill sets that I didn't have.
Okay.
So that's kind of the first part was, let other people rip you a new one. And
Okay.
It's hard to do. It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Because you feel like your baby's getting its throat cut every day.
It's personal.
It's so personal.
Yeah.
But in doing that, it releases, it removes the emotional bias that you have.
Yeah.
Or at least some extent of it.
Yeah.
And it forces you to see things from different angles and different people's thoughts. And at the end of the day, it's still your idea and it's still your thoughts. But if you're going to be open to that criticism, then you're going to have a much better product to start working on at the end of the process than you did before. And so that's kind of the answer to the first part. Like the answer to the second part is, and I learned this the hard way, it's all about people. It's all about who you work with. No single person can do everything. And so my background is analytics and business strategy and kind of the big leaps of faith and getting that executed.
Okay.
Well, in order to do that in the past, I worked in organizations that had great talent.
Right.
And great talent can achieve great things. In order to get great talent, they had a very stringent application process.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And so I was new to this. I had no marketing background in a tech world. I had no coding background and all that. I knew what I wanted.
Okay.
I knew what I wanted, and I wanted what I wanted it to look like. And the end product that I got the first time around, December of 2014, was a disaster.
Wow.
I lost $500,000 of my seed fund.
Wow.
My own money. I just poof, gone because I picked the wrong people because they sounded great and couldn't execute. I accepted their excuses and their bullshit, thinking that, their excuses were valid and I could understand them. And then I rationalized staying there because the product was only halfway done. And no, week 2, I should have fired everybody.
Right.
And started over.
Right.
And just lost what little I would have lost and moved forward. And I didn't do that until we launched, and it was a complete and utter disaster. And the final product was nothing like I wanted. And that's all on me. And so then, I got into an incubator. I met awesome people. I changed how I hired people. It was always contract based first and do a little bit of work. And if that works out, we do a little bit more work. And so I put in this process where I didn't hire anyone off the street. They all had to do work for us. And eventually I would bring them in full house.
Yeah.
When the financials made sense.
Right.
So I would pay more for the talent than I was before by hour. But I was getting a better job from it. And then when it made sense, I'd bring them internal. That was a big piece of that. And then the second big piece of that was we instituted a process called Scrum methodology. And we did that not just for technology, but for the entirety of the team across. So we had, guide. We had our VP of experience in there focused on the guides. We had technology, we had design, we had marketing, we had all key individuals from all our different teams in the Scrum process. And I let them set the tone. I gave them my overarching goals. I let them set the tone. And then I focused on kind of the BHAGs, the big, hairy, audacious goals, trying to, find new and cool ways to penetrate different markets. And I let them just focus on running the business. And I trusted them to do that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Scrum. A lot of people are going to hear that and go, what? And there's tons of different management type styles and, agile style development processes, whether it's Scrum or Kanban, or there's all of these. Can you tell us the Scrum philosophy and how it works and how you can apply it to a business?
Yeah. So the Scrum methodology works in sprints.
Yeah.
So and it's an investment. It takes time to get up and running effectively. I definitely recommend, if you're going to do this, to get a Scrum master, someone with experience.
Yeah.
We had the whole team read the book Elements of Scrum, and that book actually teaches you how to set up the Scrum process.
Yeah.
And they did it together as a team, which was kind of critical. But what Scrum allows you to do is it allows you to basically very quickly have everyone be accountable to each other over the work that they say they're going to do. When you have to stand up in your daily meeting and say, I did not get this done, and here's why.
Yeah.
Or you just say, I didn't get it done, and then other people press you, why did you not get it done? And then that's okay.
Yeah.
That changes the culture.
Yeah, for sure.
So for us, it was a pretty big culture shift that some people couldn't handle, and we had to, we had some turnover because of that. People that I had to let go. But when we instituted it, it was the greatest thing that happened to us, for us to become such more of an efficient organization. Even though when you approach it, you're like 6 hours a week spent on meetings tasks, but you don't realize that the other 34 hours a week are going to be that much more efficient. And so in totality, everyone's just working hard.
Yeah.
This is the other way around.
Yeah. Scrum's a beautiful thing. It is very hard to make that pivot for some people. And it is definitely a process that you have to learn and work through. And it is harder, but up front, but in the long run, it pays off so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. And normally Scrum is solely a tech thing. We brought it in with all of our other groups because they all had to work together congruently. And then, to be honest, we did that for a long time, and then we kind of decoupled some of the groups as we started learning, like, maybe this member doesn't need to be in Scrum because their BAU, business as usual hours, dictates them not being aligned to the overall goal of the Scrum, and that's okay. So we can take some people out, bring some other people in. Like the Scrum team, for it to be successful, they have to be uniquely focused on the one or two things that matter to your organization.
Right.
And that's difficult to do when you're changing monthly, weekly.
Yeah.
New opportunities arise. You've got to jump on it. And so, we kind of have a rapid reaction force as well as our Scrum team. And then they work kind of in conjunction.
Now, earlier in the episode, you were talking about how you're making a pivot right now in the last couple weeks, last couple months, going, what our vision isn't mating up with what we've become. And there's some places that there's little holes in the boat, and we need to right the ship and get it going down the right river, if you will, to use all these overused analogies, of course. But so often as business owners or as business managers or as visionaries, we're so entrenched in what we're doing that we don't see that the current's shifted and that things aren't going the way that they should be. How can you keep yourself in the game so that you're realizing when things aren't doing what you expected or the result isn't what you want? How can we be more aware and not just a lot of people ride their business into the abyss because they're unaware of the things that they really should be watching?
It's a great question. I think that starts with understanding KPIs, key performance indicators. So, when you set the goal in mind, you need to always be aware of what the indicators are for you either achieving or not that goal, right? So for us, cost of acquisition was a big one, right? We knew we had to get that down to be a tech company and to be effective. The other one for us was number of trips booked. We knew that was important. Growth, you have to show growth. And we'd show 2, 3, 5x growth, month over month, kind of year over year, which was great. But those actually masked, it kind of masked what the reality was. And the reality was, who are we as a company? And
Yeah.
so we had to take a step back when we realized, like, our goal is to get people outdoors in a fun-loving way and to prepare them for an outdoor life and an outdoor adventure. Are we actually achieving that? And so for that process, it's kind of making sure that quarterly you have that management all-hand meeting and sitting down, and you just ask the questions. Are we doing what we say we want to do? What direction are we actually taking? How are we achieving? Marketing, what's going on? Sales, what's going on? Like where are we? Kind of really making sure that you take that temperature, for another analogy, kind of take that temperature of the bath and just, figure out what it is that you're doing. For me, that there's another process that I use is I make sure that 40% of my time is focused on now, 40% of my time is focused on the mid-future, and 20% of my time is focused on the future.
Okay.
And by splitting up my day that way or my week that way, I ensure that I always have a view as to what's coming down the pipeline. What are we doing today to be successful? How are we preparing ourselves tomorrow to be successful? And how are we preparing ourselves a year from now to be successful? And it's important to me to do that, I believe, because oftentimes we'll say no to opportunities because we're like, short term, it's not going to do anything. But if you do your entire job short term, then you're missing out on the long-term opportunities and long-term strategies. Sometimes it takes a year to get a deal done with a big client.
Yeah.
Or like with a big referral group or something like that. And you have to be willing to fail. And so that's kind of how I approach that.
You are building a business, and you have built a business that is all about the outdoors and adventure. What's your favorite outdoor activity?
My favorite outdoor activity has to be camping on the side of a river. Okay. That's kind of the bottom line. I mean, I like to fish, I like to kayak and paddle, but yeah, that's my favorite outdoor activity.
It's really cool. You got a lot of cool stuff going on, and there's going to be some people listening who want to learn more. How can they find and connect with you?
You can find me on every single platform, like every, LinkedIn. Reach out, please. Let me know you heard it here. iTREKKERS.com. Obviously, we have information there. iTREKKERS.com/events. You can explore our new model with what we're doing. You can check us out on Facebook, iTREKKERS LLC. We've got cool videos and tips and tricks and neat, testimonials and things there. And our Instagram feed is a good one. We've got great photographers, so they take some really cool shots. Obviously, but you can also email me, Tom Mulliez at iTREKKERS.com. If you have any specific questions, I'd love to answer them.
Well, let's dive into our rapid fire questions for today.
Shoot.
What is one tip you'd give someone with a big idea or dream and they simply don't know where to start?
Figure out your big idea or dream and what, industry it's in or area, and go get a job in that industry and learn on someone else's dime.
Okay, that's cool. What is one change you'd like to see in the world?
I'd like to see us stop saying we care about the outdoors and the environment and actually start doing something about it. And so I'm creating a 1 million man, woman, and child army to do that.
Very cool. What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't care
about
my personal legacy.
Okay.
If I create outdoor advocates who are going to care about their own legacy and that of their kids and their kids' kids and their friends and get outdoors and live a better life, then that's all that matters.
Who or what inspires you?
My wife and kids inspire me to be better every day.
Very cool. What are you currently reading or watching?
I'm watching Dexter for the first time.
Okay.
And I am reading a book whose title I'm not allowed to say. It's about not caring.
Okay.
The art of not caring, but he uses very other colorful language.
And our final question that we ask every guest is, what is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
Head out and explore space.
That's very cool. Tom, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for taking time out to share your story and some insights into the world of business and outdoors. It's been a lot of fun.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Tom Mulliez, for taking time out to share his story. You can check him out at iTREKKERS.com. We'll have the link in the episode notes and on the Jumble Think website. On Friday's episode, we have Jeff McManus. He is the Director of Landscape Services at the University of Mississippi. He's also a well-known and sought-after speaker around the world of landscape. He's created a theory called the growth theory of management, which stands for greatness, resilience, opportunity, and wisdom. He manages a multi-million-dollar budget, and recently he released a new book called Growing Weeders into Leaders. His work has been featured in Princeton Review and in Newsweek. Make sure to swing back and check out Friday's episode with Jeff McManus. This last year has been so much fun doing the podcast, and we're almost at episode 100. It's been fascinating to meet incredible people, and I want to make sure that you get to hear their stories too. There are several ways you can do it. The Jumblethink podcast can be found at all of your favorite places, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and many, many other great places. You can also find each of our episodes on YouTube. You can also swing on over to jumblethink.com, that's www.jumblethink.com, to find all of our past episodes, links to great places to subscribe to our podcast, and links to our social channels. Thanks again for tuning into today's episode. It means the world to us that you would take time out to listen to our incredible guests and hear our heartbeat for the Jumblethink community. Now, I want to encourage you, go out today, take one little step to move that big idea or dream forward and start changing the world around you.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois. Lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.